Hello and welcome back to the Star Wars Generations podcast. Thank you so much for indulging us while we are on our hiatus. I have now just entered a new. I have now just welcomed a new Padawan into my household. It's been pretty awesome. The little one is 6 days old and already affecting our sleep schedule in all sorts of wonderful ways. But we're having a lot of fun, and I'm still finding time to get onto the podcast. And so I am here with Alex. Aaron will hopefully be joining us soon to talk about Rogue One after Andor. Now, this was one we played. It's been a little while since Andor, obviously, and we planned to watch it, right after Andor had finished. Turns out that being a partner to a pregnant person and being a star photographer at a major newspaper and being a nursing school student are all things that can affect the schedule. Who knew? So we are coming to you with a little later than we hoped. It's going to be the kick off the end of our hiatus instead of the last thing for our hiatus. But here we are. There's still a lot to talk about. And like I said, what we're talking about is Andor is over, and we wanted to go back and rewatch Rogue One because Rogue One, this show is the prequel to the movie that's a prequel to the main original movies that are themselves sequels to the prequel, and then prequels to the other sequels. Yeah, I'm not even getting all that. Hopefully you're laughing along. Hopefully you're not rolling your eyes or changing the channel. Alex, jump in and shut me up. Talk to me. When you sat
Hey
down,
everyone.
when you
Long
sat
time no
down to
see.
watch Rogue One again after Andor, what were you thinking as you went into it?
Yeah, it took me like a week after Andor because I was just so busy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I always loved Rogue One as a film. I thought it was one of the best movies to come out of Disney. Maybe honestly the best Star Wars movie to
Mm-hmm.
come out of Disney. But Andor just really enhances so much of it because when you first watch Rogue One, Cassian Andor, while being a very compelling character, very much is like the secondary character to Jyn Erso, and while still being that, his like background, knowing his story, makes every little mannerism, every decision he makes, just feel so much more impactful. You're just like, oh, like I get why he is so distrustful. I get his fears and anxieties. I get why he's doing what he's doing. Um, and it's just, I don't know, it makes like even with the little side characters around him, who just seem very like, small and not that important, way bigger, it's been 2 months now and I'm horrible at names. Aaron always gives me names, but his friend who escaped Narcano 5 with him,
Right.
like in we first see Rogue One, you're like, oh, sure, he's like Cassian's friend. That's cool. But like, you don't care that deeply about him beyond like any other rebel. But now I'm like, damn, I know what he's been through, and so like losing him in Rogue One hurts way more.
Mm-hmm.
And just in general, I think that like the stakes feel even higher, knowing what Cassian's gone through, what the rebellion's gone through, and knowing how Yavin was built. It feels more intense and deeper of a story, which I did not think was possible with how good it already was and how much I already loved Star Wars.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm seeing if I can find that character name. Uh, of course not. No. All right, I'm not going to it. Yeah, I'm with you. I did think that Jyn Erso, deservedly so, is the main character of that movie, and Andor is kind of the main. Like I'd say he's kind of like the main supporting actor,
Hmm.
and he's also kind of the leader of this ensemble. But it's very much a Jyn and an ensemble kind of a movie, and I still would love to see more about what was she doing, like both with Saw and then after her time with Saw. But I remember when I heard that they were doing this, I was really excited because Rogue One, as much as I loved Jyn Erso's character and thought she was just fantastic and I wanted to see more of her, Cassian's was probably the one who grabbed me the most. And so much of it is because of that first moment that we really meet him in the movie where he has important information that his friend and his co-conspirator in the rebellion has just given him, and now the Imperial stormtroopers are onto them, and the only way he can escape is by shooting his friend.
Hmm.
And there's such a beauty is the wrong word for that moment, but like and we've talked about this a lot and talk about even more on superhero ethics. Like, I love a good story about the good guys fighting the bad guys, and it's nice and simple. And Star Wars has always been more than that, in terms of like redemption stories and people can change and all that. But there's always been still some degree of there are fascists and the rebels, and when the rebels kill the fascists, we cheer.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we know the rebels are good guys, and so the fascists will do things like torture people or threaten families or all that kind of stuff. And the good guys would clearly never do any of that. They are honorable and right and good.
Mm-hmm.
And so this realization of that one of the essential parts of getting those plans into the hands of R2D2 so that Luke Skywalker could blow up the Death Star was Cassian Andor shooting his buddy in the back. It just changes everything. And I remember that was a big part of why I was so excited for Andor. I felt Andor really paid off on that. And like so much of what I loved about Andor was how well it got into that. And so I felt like now I'm even more excited to go back to Rogue One to see Cassian through, as you said, to see how did Cassian get here,
Mm-hmm.
to see all these other people who we had learned about, like General Drayden and Mon Mothma, who, Mon Mothma we'd obviously learned about from a lot of other things, but we got so much of Mothma
Oh,
in
so many good
Andor.
books.
So yeah, I did not have the patience or good judgment that you did. I think I finished them. I think I took like 15 minutes between the end of the last episode and starting the movie. No, that's incorrect. I'm sorry. No, I did. It was a day later. I think 'cause we recorded on it, and I didn't want to let that influence me. But then I watched it. But it was pretty damn quick.
I feel like I haven't had a chance to watch A New Hope yet, but I feel like this momentum will carry into A New Hope as well, which is just
Oh, I'm
crazy
sure.
to think about.
I'm sure. We'll definitely get to that in a minute. But let's still just start with Rogue One. So,
Yeah.
what was it like to sit down and watch Rogue One now that you've seen Andor?
Yeah, like I said, it almost felt like not like a different movie, but it had a very different tone to it. I mean, like everything from like Krennic's darkness to um like just knowing because in the movie when you first see Rogue One, Andor seems very kind of like dodgy, not very like trustworthy. She's in rebellion, but like just kind of a little like a mercenary, and like you don't really fully trust him until he chooses not to kill Galen.
Right.
And you're like, damn, like here's a battle hardened like rebel. But you don't really know why. And then as you get his backstory and the depth of all the things he's gone through, you're like, oh, not only do I get why, but like I like empathize with this man so deeply. And like I don't know. It's like I almost like when I watched it this time, I was in every past iteration, like Jin was very much like the main character for me. And she still is the main
Right.
character. Like I don't want to take anything away from Felicity Jones' amazing performance,
Yeah.
but I
Incredible.
definitely like noticed and paid attention to Andor a lot more than I think I did
Yeah.
in previous watch throughs, if that makes sense.
Like, let me just start again with that scene that I love so much. I remember him shooting the guy. I had forgotten the look of horror he has on his face when he does it. And like in my head, it was always, okay, clearly that's like a fellow person in the rebellion, and I guess his friend. But I kind of had to fill in some backstory for myself about saying who that guy was and why it was important. And in Andor, we get his backstory. We get like this is we hear about, hey, this is a person who's with Saw's crew, uh, and has now made contact with us. This is someone who we know, and like we literally get to watch Cassian going off to that trading post to meet up with him, and to me, all of that just gave it so much more power. And then seeing that look of kind of like, I can't believe I just did that, for me that now has so much more power because for me that moment is now, oh my god, I've become Luthen. Because through so much of the show he knows Luthen is right on some level, but he also really doesn't want to believe that, and he wants to think that he's better than Luthen, and I still think he is. Like, I don't think that one moment equals all the things that Luthen did, but I think that, like, the end of Andor, where he's actually kind of defending Luthen to the other rebels, and where he's like, you guys are all quick to judge him, but look at all the things he did when you weren't willing to put yourselves on the line. All of that to me comes out in what he's doing there.
Yeah, and I think that like what is his name? The guy Andor's buddy.
Melshi.
Melchi?
I think it's Mel. I'll look it up quickly. I think it's Melshi.
Melshi. Okay.
Melshi.
I'm just gonna go with Melshi.
Yeah, it is Ruscott Melshi. He's always
Okay, yeah.
just mentioned as Melshi, though.
So like, Melchi's one of those characters that like I didn't even when I was first watching Andor, like I didn't necessarily expect to see him in the show.
Uh-huh.
And then when I did, I was like, oh, like I remember that guy. He was like, he was a side character in Andor or in Rogue One. And like I remember him in the back of my head, but the brotherhood they formed and the closeness they formed and seeing them escape prison together, seeing them fight together, it's just like it made again, like Rogue One already was hurting me. Like Rogue One it's peak Star Wars because it hurts you so much, and I just love to be hurt by Star Wars. But
Mm-hmm.
my lord, like it's like his death. Like I wasn't expecting to like tear up, and I kind of teared up a little bit because I was like, he escaped a horrible Imperial prison, dedicated his life to the cause, and then gets killed basically like on a suicide mission that gives the galaxy hope again. It's like, what level? Like talk about like Andor's in the spotlight. This guy's just in the background. All I could think about was like neither one of them. Like Andor is not getting recognition for any of his deeds. Like we're seeing him obviously, but like
Right.
it's purposely like his rescue of Mon Mothma was kept secret. A lot of his roles are kept very covert, and like it made me reflect like even more just on like, I mean, the mastery of Star Wars, but like in Rogue One and Andor, the point being that like just like in the real world, a lot of the heroes of our world will never know the real heroes' names. It will just kind of
Right.
be in the background.
Right. And that goes throughout all of Rogue One. Think all the way back to the first season and Andy Serkis's character, who helps lead. Who, yes, Andor convinces him to join this rebellion against in the prison, but he's the one who really makes that possible. And if that doesn't happen, then Andor never gets free, and so all this doesn't happen. Tivik, by the way, is the name of the guy who Cassian meets up with on
Yes.
the trade exchange post, and carries that forward. I think one of the other things that Andor had really done, and again, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that the Empire was bad, but it really just allowed me to put it into so many better terms, is having a much deeper understanding of why it is that all these different people are coming together to fight the Empire. Because in A New Hope, one of the first things the Empire does is have a Death Star and blow up a planet. And like that's a pretty big red line, I think, for a lot of people. And in Star Wars canon, it is. A lot more people join the rebellion because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen like in Clone Wars and then in Rebels and in Bad Batch and all that, more and more like indications of just how evil the Empire was. But I felt like in Andor, we got to see a whole new side of that, in terms of all the political machinations, in terms of the propaganda machine, in terms of just the horrific things that happened to Gorman, and just how brutally that was all played out. And so I found myself like, as I'm watching Rogue One, like realizing like, yes, I might tear my hair out when General Drayden is like, oh, go kill Galen Erso instead of trying to rescue him, but instead of trying to capture him, kidnap him. But I get it. I get why all these people are so dedicated to fighting the Empire in all their different ways. And speaking of dedication, we have now been joined by Erin. Erin, so good to see you again. It's been a little while we're on hiatus.
Yes, hello.
And just welcome, jump right in. We're talking about how did we feel about watching Rogue One after Andor?
Mind blowing.
Yeah, how so?
It's such a different film. Like the film in its originality is already so incredible. Like I tell everybody it's my favorite Star Wars film just because of I feel like the emotional impact and how different it was compared to so many other Star Wars films. Mm-hmm. But like having the context of season 1 of Andor already had changed the film. Now season 2 of Andor going straight into the film, it's like a whole new story. You have all this understanding of like what Cassian has been through and where he comes from. And I feel like it makes his relationship with Jyn a lot more interesting, kind of knowing about Bix and knowing that stuff. And knowing where he was at emotionally, having just been like left.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it it was a really cool new way to see the film.
Yeah, I totally get that. We were talking about sort of just the politics and the seeing Cassian. Let me start that question again. Um, there's a lot there to get into, especially about Cassian and Jyn Erso and with Bix and all of that. But even going beyond that, kind of, I was just talking about how I felt like it gave me a different picture of the Empire. Like I always knew they were evil, I knew they were fascists and bad. But I'm curious for you, did you feel any different about watching, Krennic and watching all the Imperial plans play out in Rogue One, having seen the beginnings of that in Andor?
Like, how do I feel about Krennic? Kind of was your base question.
Krennic or the Empire in general?
The Empire in general. They are a much more realistic villain.
Yeah.
I would say. Like the Empire is already scary. Krennic, I already loved him as a villain. He's sassy. He's upset about his position. He fucking hates Tarkin. Like that's all entertaining.
Aaron loves a sassy villain.
I love a sassy villain. I do. What can I say? But yeah, it just felt like you kind of see this like desperation in Krennic that I haven't noticed before.
Yeah.
Because like we're seeing how hard he's fighting for this and how this is like his fucking thing. Like this is his thing that nobody else gets to know about. And suddenly it's Tarkin's thing and he freaks the fuck out.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Matthew.
I feel like in Andor, we see him really fight for it to become his thing. Or I feel like we really fight. And in Andor, I feel like we really saw him fight to reassert that it's his thing in a way that leads him up so perfectly to that. The way there is all of this like security breakdowns around it. And he's the one to have to step in and be like, no, the ISB fucked this up. I'm in control now. And, just that incredible scene of him putting his finger on the head of Dedra and talking to her and all that. To me, it's like, this is all the things that puts him on the pedestal that makes him so much more pissed when you're right. Tarkin just knocks him right back off of it again because he's just gone through. It's like, of course he's so pissed at Tarkin because he's just finished having to fight with all the ISB people who in his mind came so close to blowing it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also will say that Rogue One, so between books that I've read with the Thrawn books and Andor, Rogue One itself, I always saw Krennic as sassy, but also like kind of like a little whiny baby. Not like necessarily a bad way, but a little bit of a whiny baby. And like I was never really scared of him. Like he always was just like, he kind of reminded me of similar vibes of Kylo Ren without any of the fear factor. And now because of Rogue One, I'm sorry, God, I keep mixing them up. Because of Andor, I'm gonna say that again. But now because of Andor, we have that fear factor, and like all I can think about is like the finger push on Daedra's head and like how he actually can be this menacing figure and really was really important and high up in the food chain. Like it's easy to forget that because he's kind of pushed aside so much and bullied by Tarkin.
And Vader.
And Thrawn. And just everyone. But I don't know. To me it feels like this gave like Andor gave me a little more respect for him. So when I'm watching Rogue One, I'm like, damn, he's one powerful man to just be like getting smacked around by all these other guys.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I agree. I feel like he very much, when he showed up in Andor, it's like, oh, a new villain, but like we've never heard of him before, so we know he's not going to be important later. Like, meh, 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 meh. And he was fun. He was sassy, like I already said, but like having Andor, especially season 2 now, it's just like it puts actual real fear behind him and like his power and his actions, which is basically what you're saying, Alex.
Yeah, I think it gives him fear, and also it reinforces this idea that he is very much the classic bully. Because I think part of what we see in Rogue One is that we see the side of him of the person who bullies people until he feels like he's now on the bottom of the totem pole, and he becomes a complete toady. He goes to Vader and is like, "This is what should happen," and then is like, it basically is like going to Daddy and be like, "That mean Tarkin hit me, Daddy, go take care of him." and I feel like, but we never got to see him just be the bully. Like we got to see it a little bit at the beginning, but seeing him just. We talked about the scene with Dedra, but also that scene where he's in Luthen's not he's not in Luthen's museum. He's at Mon
But
Mothma's.
in the relic area, yeah.
Yeah, it's not Mon Mothma's house. It's the gangster who Mon Mothma's daughter marries his son. We're all terrible with names. I apologize. But like, yeah, that great scene where like, Mon Mothma and Krennic are sparring. I just seeing that scene made me so much more satisfied watching, Tarkin knock him down off that pedestal.
Yeah.
Trying to think what I was gonna say. I had something. Andor. Even like being able to see so like the meetings that were being had between Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, like just kind of seeing, the breakdowns that were happening, the intense arguments that were happening in Andor, kind of like makes it make more sense when like the Rebel Alliance is suddenly just like, we can't fight, we're not gonna do anything, we're just gonna like let the Empire win low key, and then like an act of rebellion within the rebellion has to happen. And at the time, like Admiral Radish like going off and doing his own thing just seemed like, oh, that's par for the course. This is the rebellion. But then in
Yeah.
Andor, we saw that like if you go off and do your own thing, you're like court-martialed and you're like really held down to like these laws and orders that they put together. And so it makes like all of these people going rogue way cooler and way more like damn, we're like really just kind of like risking it all because they believe in this cause so deeply, knowing full well that if they do survive, they're in for like a world of hell and trouble if they're not fully kicked out of the rebellion when they get back.
Right.
Which is something that just that storyline wasn't there at all until Andor was made.
I agree. That's a really good point. Is like, of course, rebels rebelling is not surprising. It's just like, yeah, of course, like that's what you got to do sometimes to get around the system. But like seeing just how structured the Rebel Alliance was, and also how fractured it was at the same time, and seeing so many different, I'm going to use the same word again, seeing so many different factions and just how they fight within each other. Like that one episode, don't remember the planet, but where Andor was stuck just in the middle of a rebellion who decided to fight each other and have a civil war. And it's like, y'all have the same common goal, but you still can't agree enough to not kill each other.
That was on Yavin 4, amusingly enough.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, with those two groups of stealing ships and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm totally with you, because to me, it's you're right. It's fractured, it's structured, and it's fragile. I think I love Rogue One, but I think one part that never really rang true for me was that scene where, Jin is saying we need to go after this, and some of the other senators are saying like we can't do this, and some of them are saying like the Rebel Alliance is finished. We have to break apart, and part of me is like, I know that doesn't happen. I know that in just a couple days you blow up the Death Star. I feel like seeing how hard it was to get all those people to Andor, to Yavin, seeing how hard it was to get all those people to Yavin, seeing all the things that had to go into it, I know it's obviously not going to happen. It makes that scene where they're like, maybe we should all just go our separate ways and give up, that much more powerful.
So much more powerful.
I agree.
Let's talk about the Bix of it all, because there's definitely been some online discourse, including a lot of folks being like, oh, this proves that Cassian and Jin were never really romantic with each other, or this proves that like Cassian's actually super shady for like falling for Jin when he's had Bix. What's your guys' take on all this?
But he like didn't fall for Jin.
I have so much to say. Do you want to go first, Alex?
Absolutely not. You seem far more passionate.
Okay. So I like when I saw this movie, I was a teenager, right? So like obviously I want there to be a love story. And I think that there was a bit of romance between the two of them. But I think in that ending scene, the fact that we saw them embrace rather than like kiss, it just shows that they had a deeper connection just like as people. And maybe they did have a love for each other just as people, whether or not if they had survived, maybe that could have been romantic. Maybe they were just friends. But I kind of like this beautiful space we get where these two people, they meet each other and there's something magnetic between them, regardless of in what way. And we don't get to see how it plays out. And it's very interesting. I like that people, well, maybe not all people, definitely some people are like, they were definitely fucking, like they loved each other. But I like that a lot of fans have been like, it's kind of nice to leave it open ended, that they ended their relationship and their lives as friends
Yeah.
and as comrades is really beautiful. That being said, it's also very valid of Andor after being dumped to be like, damn, she's pretty. I kind of like her. Like, I've been there before, you know? Like, when you get out of relationships, there's a little confusion of like, shit, am I just gonna like be by myself? Am I gonna try something else? And then you have a few talking stages that are like uncomfortable. But this is Star Wars and this is rebellion. So we don't got time for that shit.
Right.
We just got time to chat, get a little romance, but a lot of friendship, and then embrace and be turned into dust.
Wow, that ended darkly, but I agree with you totally. Alex, I want to hear you jump in. I'll just add, this isn't like a rebound he had like a day after Bix left him. This is a year later as well. So just kind of further, I have some further commentary on what you said,
Yeah.
Aaron, but just to add that one addition
And
as well
like,
to help support it.
I kind of want to agree with Aaron too. Like, first of all, he has no idea that he has a kid. I know we've discussed the validity of all of that before. We don't have to get into it, but doesn't know if the kid exists either way, whether it's his, not. And like Biggs left him, and like Aaron said, my last long-term relationship ended a year ago, and I've started going on dates again, and like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like it's
No.
it's been a long time, and so I think that Andor is totally legit for like trying, like, just it's not even he's like courting her or like anything. It's just like, oh, Jin's pretty. I like her spunk. I like who she is. Like there's some vibe, sure. But like we talked about, like there's no kiss, there's no definitive anything. They died, like Aaron said, as comrades in arms, which is really beautiful. And like I also think that in general, like lines between like, you know, like like if you love someone, like clearly like Andrew ended up like loving Jin in like just a unique way, like those lines are not as concrete as we think. So they could be friends, comrades. He could have some romantic feelings towards her. Like those lines are very easily blurred. Like I think that in society we try and say like he has to either be interested in her romantically or they have to be strictly platonic friends. There's nothing in between, and that's just not how it is. And so I feel like there's some in between vibes going on there, and that's just how it is. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think Andor is a very justified individual. Plus, he's about to die. Let the man seek some comfort. Come on, y'all.
And I want to
go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that I think is very like interesting and beautiful about the story of Cassian and Jin and the way they come into each other's lives is it was a fucking shock for both of them.
Yeah.
Neither of them were expecting to meet this person. I'm sure he's heartbroken about Bix. He's like in his head. And then he's like, oh, fuck, we got to rescue this girl. She's got information that we need. And then it just kind of goes from there. And Jin's like in prison, in a work camp, not expecting to be picked up. And suddenly there's this like guy who's like really frustrating and kind of a dick, but also kind of hot, but also like you kind of like what he's saying, but you don't really want to get like nixed by the Empire. So it's like hard. And I like that they were both a surprise to each other. And we got to see them interact in that way where it's like, no, it's not like, oh, I love you. We're both like looking for romantic connection. It's just like, no, we're trying to fucking survive amidst a fascist regime. And then we surprise each other with our connection. And it's magnetic, whether it's friendship, whether it's something else. It's a connection that surprises the both of them. And I think that the actors pulled it off beautifully, having there be no Andor before the movie. I think it all still meshes together really well.
Yeah, I think I'm with all of you there. And just from my own kind of background on this, I remember that when I watched the movie for the first time, it was really we're still in, obviously, like, superhero movies are coming out all the time. But this was back when I was trying to watch every single superhero movie that came out and a lot of other things that were like that. And I remember having a lot of discussions, in part on my Superhero Ethics podcast, but also just with friends, about how frustrating it was to have these movies where it seemed like there was a little romance jammed in for no reason whatsoever. And then often it felt kind of like almost misogynistic in terms of like, oh, hey, the only reason this female character is there is, so that our main male character can have a love interest, or, she doesn't get to do anything else, or, you hear marketing people talk about like, well, we want women to go to see this as well, so we need to have a romantic love interest, and that's kind of by no means like what has to happen to get people of any gender to go. So when I watched it and they didn't kiss, I really was happy about that, and I kind of locked in on they're friends. It is a friendship thing. They have respect for each other, colleagues, and that's powerful and important. But it doesn't have to be romantic.
And I want
Then
go ahead.
Jump in and let me continue.
I was just going to say that on that vein, I wanted to just quickly bring up, I'm a little bothered. I'm curious if either you were bothered. Disney Plus, after Andor came out, changed the image for Rogue One. It used to have like Jyn front and center with like the Death Star behind her, and now it is Andor front and center, Cassie front and center, and Jyn is like off to the side. And that's just like, I understand that like Cassian Andor is like the hot ticket, story individual right now, but Jyn's still the main character of that story, and it feels a little misogynistic to kind of just kick her to the side of the image. I don't know if either of you've noticed that.
So I think it's a really interesting point. That's a complete tangent of what I was trying to talk about, and I'm kind of in the middle of a point. So do you mind if we just?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's why I wanted you to go. Sorry.
No problem. So I was kind of really locked in on that idea, and then I started talking to others on here, especially Danielle, written in the Star Wars, who's been our guest a number of times.
Love her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's really into the romance aspect between the two characters, and she pointed out a number of things that I think can point to that. And in the novelization of the movie, apparently that is much the romance is much more highlighted, and so I want to kind of honor that. But I think here's the thing: is that even if we do say that yes, it is very much a romance, for all the with all that kind of background, I'm just coming around to where you guys are. To me, it does not take away from what he has with Bix in any way, shape, or form.
Of course not.
It was a year ago, and people can have many loves over the course of their life. But also just to me, it makes me think kind of the Hunger Games of back when, in the first book, Katniss is very much like, I'm with Gale. Gale and I are going to grow up and become like partners in some way, probably. She goes into the Hunger Games arena, and she has a moment of wondering, like when she does feel herself start to actually fall for PETA, and that maybe it's not just a game to get sponsorship. She has a moment of like, am I being unfaithful to Gale? And then realizes like, no, I'm never going to see Gale again. I'm going to die here. So maybe it's okay to just have this moment. Plus, those moments you guys have, like when you're starting, maybe like, I don't know if you guys have had this, but like you and a friend are starting to realize like you might have feelings for each other. Maybe you like kissed a couple times. You're trying to figure out like what's going on with us. And you want to like sit down and like think to yourself, like, do I like this person romantically? Do I like them sexually? Do I like them platonically? How do I feel about this person? I don't know. I need to figure that out because not everyone knows it automatically. Cassian and Jyn never really get time to stop and figure that out.
They don't.
So them having, some mixture of friendship and attraction and, oh my God, we're both going to die and we need human comfort. And wow, they're really cute. And wow, I was totally in love with this other person who left me. Like, that's a big jumble of thoughts and emotions. And I'm totally okay if Cassian hasn't figured that out and never does figure that out because they're about to die. And
yeah, it is. It's interesting, like the urgency timeline that was put on their story and how much it changes things.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt your point. Sorry, Matthew.
No, you're fine. And I'll edit all that out and then now go. And now, Alex, I need you to go. Alex, I need you to go. Now, Alex, I know you need to go in just a minute or two, but there was another point you wanted to bring up about kind of the way the show is being marketed on Disney Plus, right?
Yes. So I just wanted to point out that prior to Andor being released, at least I don't think it was even before season 1. After season 2 came out, they changed the imagery. So if you go on Disney Plus now, instead of it being a photo of, the classic photo of Jyn with the Death Star behind her, like that was the promotional image for the movie ever since it came out, a decade ago almost. Now it is Cassian front and center with Jyn still in the picture, but like very small off the side behind him. And while I understand that Andor is the Star Wars story of the year for sure, and he's kind of like like it's like him and Pedro Pascal are like the two like golden boys of Star
The
Wars right
Latino
now.
kings.
Yeah, we love them. I love them, but
Along with Oscar Isaac.
Along with Oscar Isaac.
But I would say like this year, those two were like really kind of like holding it down because of Mando and Andor. But point is, it just felt like very borderline, if not blatantly misogynistic, and kind of just like pushing Jin to the side, literally in the image. Like, again, I understand that Andor is really important, and like I'm so happy that he's getting more of a spotlight, but he has his own show. Like, let him be the front page of his show. Why does he also need to be like the lead image for Rogue One when Jin is very much the main character?
Absolutely.
That just feels like, I understand you're trying to capitalize on the success of Andor to get more people to watch Rogue One, but like, come on, y'all. Like, just put him to the side. Put him to the side. You can still see him, but leave Jin front and center. It's her movie.
Yeah, it feels kind of disrespectful, honestly. It's like, I mean, I guess, had the sequels come out? Force Awakens had come out when we got Rogue One, right?
Yes, it was Force Awakens, then Rogue One, then Episode 8.
So we had already had a female-centered Star Wars story, but that was still very new.
Right.
And to have a standalone film that tells such an important story at this timeline we've never gotten to interact with in this way, we've never gotten to interact with the little guys, you know, quote, quote. And for it to be her story, I think was so important. And like, as a young girl, I think I've spoken on this podcast a little bit about like having some like animosity towards Rey because of some internalized misogynism and like feeling like, oh, well, she's a girl. Why she got to be front and center? I never felt that way about Jen. I felt her story was so powerful and so deep and so important that it's like, that never occurred to me in my clouded state of being young and believing everything the church told me.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I think that's really important. And you've talked, before about kind of the feelings with Rey and how that's changed. But I know you've also talked a lot about how much you love Jyn Erso from the beginning. And I think that is super powerful. And I think it was like, yes, we also have Rey, and we're going to get even more movies with her, which is great. And we've had a number of other strong female characters since then, and things like the Acolyte and
absolutely.
But we certainly don't have enough by any means. And I don't. Yeah, it feels like there's been definitely a push that like Andor is now so popular that people want to make Rogue One kind of his movie. And you're right, it isn't. He's an important character. So are all the other people that they kind of like pick up along the way. It's very much a Muppet Show kind of a movie.
Yes.
The Muppet movie. They pick up all these people to form the anti-Empire Rainbow Connection.
What an incredible comparison. What an absolutely incredible. I have never in my life heard Star Wars compared to the Muppets, but that is so spot on, Matthew. It's incredible.
It's what I'm here for. Tip your waitress. But,
wow. That was magical.
Try the veal. But but yeah, and I have not poked my head into this particular corner of social media, and I'm probably happy I haven't. But I do know that there's been a lot of this kind of anti-Jyn Erso, pro-Bix sentiment, and that some of it's been spurred on by, as I understand it, again, I'm hearing this mostly second, third hand, Tony Gilroy has had some things to say about Rogue One and how Andor is kind of like more what he wanted to tell, and being kind of critical, and maybe that like he would have wanted to have Bix in Rogue One and less of Jyn Erso or something. And I don't, again, I think his comments are being way overblown by this group that's like very much anti-Jyn, pro-Bix for reasons I don't really quite understand. And I just, I don't know. I don't think there's any need to put, to me, watch Andor was so good for so many reasons, but in part because of Rogue One was so good. And now watching Andor, it makes Rogue One better. And to me, the idea that either of them has to take away from the other, or that we have to say one is better than the other unless the other is shit, like I just see no reason for it.
Yeah. I agree. I think those two stories, although they were written in such different times, I think they still flow together beautifully and they're very realistic.
Yeah.
And there's really no need to choose sides.
Yeah,
like, I can understand how people get that way, like, I'm sure I was kind of that way when I was younger about like, no, this is my stand, like whatever. But just like in real life, you can have a beautiful relationship that's lovely and everyone is rooting for you. And at the end of the day, it doesn't work between the two of you. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with finding somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with finding a crush that you're not going to pursue things with, but just somebody to spark that and make you like remind you of like, oh, like love isn't all bad. It's not all just pain.
Yeah.
Like you can have platonic love, you can have romantic love, you can have somewhere in between and still be like, it's healthy and it's not the center of their story.
Emo is not the only form of music out there, people. You can have a Panic at the Disco and still fall in love with someone and it be good.
Yeah.
Now that I've completely genre jumped into like 8 different directions, it is about time to wrap up. Any last things either you want to say before we bounce?
No, I'm just excited to hopefully watch A New Hope soon to see how that movie changed as well. Because if Rogue One changed this much, I feel like A New Hope also has changed.
Yeah, agreed.
I missed the first half of this convo, but I just want to say how much I love Bodhi Rook. He's a king. He is our skinny, nervous icon, our anxiety icon. I had a big old crush on that guy when that came out. I was like, ooh, he's always sweaty and uncomfortable. Something about this speaks to me. Like, I just loved him as a character and how he was just, because like he was an Imperial pilot, right?
Yeah.
And then just like never really fucked with the Empire, but that was the job. So you just go with it. And then seeing how quickly someone who's so deeply embedded is like, yeah, no, fuck this. I'm on the other side for sure. Like, this is the way I'm already feeling. It's just there was no opportunity to do that. Or there was no other people feeling the same way that I felt that I could speak up. And so I really love that story we get from him, from being, Imperial pilot, being captured, being literally tortured by Saw and his people. Like one of the most horrifying things, like a bug slug thing infecting your brain sounds fucking horrifying. And he still came out of that with enough of his conscious solidified and together that he was like able to make the decision to continue with the rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really love him as a character.
And then he names
fucking
them as
cheer
Rogue
it.
One. Oh, don't even get me on Cheery.
I can't.
Cheery and yeah.
Cheer it and Baze, I believe.
I'm gonna go to my grave that they are romantic part. Like them romantic.
They're lovers.
100% romantic. Like
They're
that.
very in love.
That I will not find any question on. Alex, for you, last thoughts, last comments?
No. I like, thought about it, and I was like, "Nah, I don't think that's on the brain."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's been a long day, but I am just happy to have talked about Star Wars with you all again. It's been a few weeks, and it always brightens my week to chat Star Wars with all. And yeah.
It's been a little while. But now that we are, now that like I've actually, my partner has given birth and we have a little Padawan in the house, I'm sure there's no more stresses on my schedule. Everything's gonna be just fine. So
definitely not.
And don't worry, y'all. In the future, when Aaron and I have to run the podcast by ourselves, Matthew will leave the child to be on the mic.
Who's the child? Is that me?
I'm kidding. No,
no,
Matthew's
I have
child.
An actual, literal
child. Your new child. Sorry.
Oh my god! I was making a joke. Who's
your
child,
literal
me?
newborn. Okay.
No, the 6-day-old child.
Tell your boyfriend I'm cutting off the child support payments. You're on your own now, kid. I wish the podcast could understand the look on Aaron's face. It's on YouTube. It's great.
I'm like, I had my tubes removed for a reason, guys.
I am very happy with the results, and I did my best to be there and support Mary and everything I could, and God, it did not look like a good process.
Proud of you. Proud of her.
Yeah. Proud of everyone.
So we came through it okay. We're doing okay. So
good.
All right. Much love, everybody. Thanks. We'll probably be on a once every 2 week schedule for a while as we kind of settle back in.
Cool.
We'll see where we go. Thanks so much for listening. Check out all the other cool things that my podcasters are doing, and live long and prosper.
Stay classy, Scarif.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Excellent choice in the panic.
I might have fucked that line up.
No, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. You nailed
I've
it.
actually been listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, so when you said that, I heard, "Be careful not to touch the wall. There's a brand new coat of paint." Glad to see you still alive. You looking
very
like
different vibes. Yeah.
Okay. Peace out, everybody.
Oh my god. Silly.